Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Watang Yu. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to anyone joining us online as well. Today is a third day of our 5-day course that we're actually teaching. And I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's completely fine. Whatever you would like to do, if you'd like to come and go as you please, you're more than welcome to do that. But I'm teaching a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course. It started on Monday, and it goes all the way till Friday. Today, what we're going to be doing is meditation. I'm going to start you off with some meditation. Then afterwards, I'm going to share this talk of the 3 poisons: craving, anger, and ignorance. This is where you're going to learn about the high-level problems in the mind that the Buddha discovered and why you keep experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings can actually be eliminated from the mind through training of the mind. But you need to first understand what the problems are and then the solutions. So I'm going to describe what the problems are and then what the solutions are as well to be able to help you. And then after that, we're going to take a little mid-morning break around 10:30, 11. We'll take a nice little break. Then when we come back, I'm going to teach the 5 precepts. These are 5 impactful decisions that you could make either wisely or unwisely, and you would either experience wholesome results or unwholesome results depending on how you make decisions. If you've learned that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, no intoxicants, this isn't actually the 5 precepts. That's not the way the Buddha teaches. That sounds like a bunch of rules or commandments. It sounds like black and white. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you the original words of the Buddha on the 5 precepts. This is going to help you to understand this important teaching, and then I'm going to show you how to relate it to day-to-day decisions that you're making in your day-to-day life. We're going to take a lunch break in the afternoon, probably about a good hour and a half. Then when we come back in the afternoon, I'm going to teach walking meditation. This is a really helpful meditation if you have an overactive mind, if you find it really challenging to sit and be still and actually meditate in quietness. The walking meditation is actually really helpful for you. It's also helpful if you're noticing that you're falling asleep during your meditation. So that's what I'm going to be teaching today. And then tomorrow we have other topics. And ultimately on Friday, we're going to cap off this course with a tour where I'm going to take students out to 2 different temples, Wat Umong and Wat Doi Suthep. There's a forest temple and a temple up on the mountain. You're welcome to come to this tour if you like. It's kind of like a classroom without walls where I'm going to walk around the temple and teach students the artwork, the architecture, and the symbolism of the temple, so that when you visit a temple, instead of just like, oh, wow, that's beautiful, let me take a picture of that, instead, you'll actually understand what is actually in these temples. Because once you understand the teachings and you understand the symbolism, the artwork, and the architecture, it's kind of like the temple walls speak to you and you kind of understand what it is that you're seeing. So if you're just visiting temples without having that understanding, it's just like, oh, wow, that's pretty. Oh, wow, that's beautiful. You don't really understand the meaning behind this construction of the temples. So I'm going to walk students around 2 different temples and help them to understand. So if you would like to even just come for Friday, you're welcome to do that. We're going to be here at 9 a.m. getting started, and then we're going to head out on our tour, and then we're going to come back around 5 p.m. on Friday. So everybody and anybody's welcome to that. So if you're here today to do some meditation and learn, that's wonderful. You can stay as long as you like or as short as you like. It's really up to you. You're welcome to come and go as you please. I'm going to start with the meditation, and the way that I start meditation is I do chanting to ease into the meditation. If you would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. I have the chants on laminated sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get a laminated sheet and see the chanting that I do. If you're online, you'll see these on our website. You can go to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and then down towards the bottom, you'll see the chanting sheets there. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is how they remembered the teachings. So you can see through the origins of chanting that there isn't anything mystical or magical about chanting. It's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. Today, we use chanting as a way to ease the mind in the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. But sometimes people teach it as like a prayer or worship or a ritual or something like that. But it's important to understand that that's not how the Buddha actually taught it. He used it as a learning tool, as a learning device, because nowadays we have books, audiobooks, videos, podcasts, things like this to be able to capture the teachings and study them and remember them. But 2,500 years ago, they didn't have that technology that existed. Now, you might not see writing something down and having a book as technology, but 2,500 years ago, that was technology. And that technology didn't exist in the region of the world where the Buddha was teaching. So they used chanting just to commit the teachings to memory. And by committing the teachings to memory, you would then be able to practice them and experience the results. If you read the English translations of these chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think the Buddha actually created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students, either during his life or after his death. Because a Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be the ego. This would be arrogance if someone did that. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you're not going to have ego and arrogance where you're putting yourself above people or below people. So the Buddha wouldn't have taught people to chant these chants to him, but instead, if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger and sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings to the permanent mental state where the mind is peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, no longer experiencing any discontent feelings, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's where I suspect that these chants actually came from his students. So I still chant them because it helps to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation. So you're welcome to chant along if you like. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance to be guiding you and instructing you during the meditation, kind of teaching you how to meditate while we're actually doing the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating together. Those of you here at the temple and everyone online will just all be meditating at the same time. Now, I'm sure during this period of quietness, you're probably going to hear occasional sounds. You're probably going to hear a car go by. You might hear a bird chirping, a dog barking. Someone might sneeze or cough or something like that. This is all normal. You can't be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. If your mind craves permanent quietness, when you hear a sound, you'll annoy yourself. Your mind will experience annoyment, but it's your own mind that's causing this. It's not the external world. That's what the unenlightened mind tends to think, is that it's something external that is causing your discontent feelings, when in reality, it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And that's why you can actually eliminate them through training of your mind. So when you hear sounds, just understand that it's impermanent. It's going to arise, it's going to change, it's going to fade away. It's temporary. The world is functioning this way, that everything around you is impermanent. It's constantly changing. It's when your mind is craving permanence that you'll experience discontentedness. So whenever you hear a sound, just know that it's not permanent and it's going to arise, change, and fade away. And that's the world functioning exactly the way the world is constructed, which is everything around you is impermanent. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand this topic of the three poisons and how to transform your mind away from these. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions at different times in your journey to enlightenment. It's kind of like creating a tool belt for yourself so that you can employ these different tools at different times. So most of the time, people are learning in the seated position. So I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance on the seated position. And then, like I mentioned, this afternoon, I'm going to be teaching walking position. So if you'd like to stick around for that or come back for that, you're more than welcome to. The seated position is oftentimes where students are sitting on the floor or in a chair. You might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair if you're at home or something like that. So you can really sit however you're comfortable. The guidance that I'm going to provide you is more like suggestions, things for you to consider, because there isn't just one way for you to actually sit. That would be permanence, when in reality, we live in an impermanent world. So find whatever's comfortable for you. And you might consider these types of things, that if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This is going to help to soften your seat. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing your circulation to flow. So you might consider doing that as well. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. So if you would like to do do it that way, you're more than welcome. But there's other options here too. It's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can do whatever you like with your hands and arms that's comfortable for you. And the same thing for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can do the same thing. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So that's an option too. There's not just one way to do it. And then the hands and arms can just go wherever you're comfortable. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect with your sternum up and your shoulders back. It's going to help keep your mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, which will keep the mind attentive and alert, and it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Because what meditation is it's a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during this training so you can eliminate certain unwholesome qualities and cultivate certain wholesome qualities in your mind. So as I mentioned, I'm going to ease us into meditation with some chanting, and then you guys are welcome to join in on that. And then I'll come back in with the guidance to be able to help you during the meditation. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Bhutang Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakeva Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhuto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that the mind moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Mahakavanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhoto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly ease your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see all of you guys here this morning. Welcome to Watang Yu. Welcome to everyone joining us online as well. As I was mentioning, this is the third day of a 5-day course that I'm sharing, and I'm going to share with you this topic of the 3 poisons of craving, anger, and ignorance. This is going to help you to understand what's really going on in your mind and why you're experiencing the things that you're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. And as you're learning, you can ask questions as we go. I'm going to open up for questions at different times. If you're here at the temple and you have a question, we have microphones in the white bowl here in the front of the room. If you could just get a microphone and press the gray button, you're going to see the lights come on, and you can hold that up to your chin and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And then you can just keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question and you'd like to share the microphone. And then if you're not using it, if you could just turn it off, that way we won't get feedback through the speakers, that would be great. And then anybody who's online, if you guys would like to ask questions as we go, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. Or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically, unmute your microphone, and then ask any and all questions that you like. So essentially what the Buddha did during his lifetime is he figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It no longer experiences any discontent feelings. You've eliminated all the causes and conditions that are producing anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind because at this point, someone has trained their mind and purified the mind. They've purified the mind of these particular pollutions of craving, anger, and ignorance. In a more detailed level, the Buddha refers to these as the 10 fetters. universe. An individual on the path to enlightenment who has purified their mind and actually attained enlightenment, not only will they have eliminated their discontent feelings, but they also will experience focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because when you eliminate the pollutions out of your mind will perform optimally. So you'll have these qualities available to you at all times. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming and they're at ease because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. Right now, you probably find it a bit challenging to be able to do that. There's probably certain relationships that you struggle in. And this is just because the mind is having these pollutions, and it makes it difficult for an individual to actually be able to experience harmonious relationships when you don't have the wisdom of how to train your mind. Right now, you might have learned how to clean your body, right? This is something that we've learned growing up, is how to clean our body. And if we go a period of time where we don't clean the body, you probably feel pretty uncomfortable. And that's probably why you take a shower just about every day, because it feels more comfortable to have a clean body. Well, if you haven't learned how to clean your mind of these pollutions, and you've been going around for weeks and months and years of not cleaning your mind, this is why you feel uncomfortable in certain situations, because the mind has these pollutions. Just like if you didn't clean this body for several years, you would walk around and feel pretty uncomfortable. The same thing is true about the mind. And there's more than just the body here. Most of us have learned how to clean the body as we were growing up, but if you haven't learned how to also clean the mind, you're not addressing this entire being. So the Buddha figured out how to clean up the mind and eradicate pollutions out of the mind, to the point where not only will you experience those other benefits that I mentioned, but you won't even have a bad mood by the time you get to enlightenment. It's physically impossible for you to have a bad mood. Oftentimes people think that the reason why these feelings are being experienced in one's own mind is because of something external. You might be blaming your anger and your sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings on something external. But this isn't actually the real cause of what's producing these discontent feelings. And because the mind in the unenlightened state lacks the wisdom of knowing what's truly causing these feelings, you would be struggling in terms of how to eliminate them. You wouldn't know how to eliminate them. So by the Buddha figuring out how to actually eradicate these discontent feelings through purifying the mind, he then spent the rest of his life from the age of 35 to 80 helping other people understand what he did in order to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. So I'm going to share with you guys these three poisons, or these three unwholesome roots, or these three fires, helping you to understand what these are at a high level, so that then you can understand what is actually causing the difficulties and struggles in your mind. And then I'm going to also talk about the solutions as well. But when you're learning the teachings of the Buddha, it's important that you don't believe any of his teachings. There's no belief in the teachings of the Buddha whatsoever. With belief, you're just believing it. You don't know what's true or false. Either you've convinced yourself to believe it, or somebody has convinced you to believe something. In order to get to enlightenment and have this transformation of the mind that I'm talking about, you need to get to wisdom, where you deeply understand the truth. And you can't get to the truth when you're just believing something. So you need to be able to learn, examine, and investigate teachings. You need to be able to reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you need to practice the teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life. And this is where the real transformation is occurring, because you're uprooting these pollutions out of the mind. The Buddha essentially taught these natural laws of existence. He taught certain natural laws that if you learn them and you cultivate the wisdom of them, now you can navigate the world more peacefully. When you live in a world that you don't understand, you will struggle and you will have difficulties. That's what the anger and the sadness and frustration and all these other discontent feelings are, is it's an indication to you that your mind is lacking certain wisdom about this world. And it's only when you awaken to this wisdom of the natural laws that you can navigate the world more peacefully. There's other natural laws that you weren't aware of at different times of your life that you struggled and you have difficulties with. But now you have the wisdom of those natural laws and you find it pretty easy to navigate the world. What I'm talking about here is the natural law of gravity. At one time, none of us understood the natural law of gravity, and we struggled with that. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, we cried and cried. We were so upset because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. And then slowly but surely, we gained wisdom of this natural law. And then we started making wiser and wiser decisions. decisions. And that led to more and more wholesome results for us. And now we're at the point where we can ride bicycles, we can climb ladders, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we understand this natural law. We fully awoke to the wisdom of this natural law. And now we can navigate the world more peacefully. We don't struggle and have difficulties with it anymore. But this natural law is not something that we believe in. We actually see it for ourselves. We can test it. We can see by taking something and dropping it, we can see that there it is. There's the natural law of gravity. We don't believe the natural law of gravity exists. We know with 100% certainty that it exists. And then we've gained the wisdom of how to navigate the world based on that. So what I'm going to share with you here about these three poisons, it's important that you don't believe what it is that I'm sharing with you, but instead you learn and understand what it is that I'm sharing, and then you reflect on it to independently verify what I'm saying. Is it true or is it false? And then you can ultimately practice what I'm sharing with you, and that's where you'll see more and more transformation to your mind. And that's why it's important that you can listen with eager ears. You can actively understand what it is that I'm sharing, and then ask questions at different times to be able to help you. So when I go through these three poisons, not only am I going to explain to you what the pollution of the mind is, I'm going to explain to you certain symptoms that you experience because of these pollutions. And then that's where you can actually hear the examples that I'm going to give you, and you can see that you're experiencing these exact things. This is how you're going to be able to confirm that these pollutions are actually in your mind. Because for the most part, I've never met many of you. And then you'll see that I'll be able to describe the things that are occurring in your day-to-day life, because I know that the unenlightened mind has these pollutions. And when I describe it to you, or what you're actually experiencing, you'll be able to independently verify that your mind actually has these pollutions. So that's where you listen with eager ears and you don't believe what it is somebody's actually sharing, but you independently verify what is being shared with you. So just to talk about these three poisons from a high level of what they are, is that the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires, these are known as the defilements or the pollutions or the taints. This is a high level description of what's being experienced in the unenlightened mind due to these pollutions. The unenlightened mental state is experiencing certain effects that as you navigate the world and you're making certain decisions based on these three poisons being in the mind, you're going to be experiencing certain unwholesome results. Because whenever you're making decisions through these three unwholesome roots or these three poisons, it's going to motivate unwise decisions. And when you make those unwise decisions, you're going to be experiencing unwholesome results coming back to you. This is referred to as the natural law of gamma, of cause and effect, or action and result. You might have heard this referred to as karma. This is the Sanskrit version of that word, where the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So we use this word gamma. This is cause and effect, or action and result. There isn't anything mystical or magical with the natural law of gamma. It's helping you to be able to see that when you make decisions wisely or unwisely, you will experience either wholesome or unwholesome results. So when you're experiencing certain things in your day-to-day life, it's not because of other people. It's because of decisions that you're making. Oftentimes people think that the reason why they experience certain challenges or struggles in their life is they might think it's good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or they might think that it's God or some other entity, maybe named the universe or something like this. Or sometimes people often will blame what they experience on other people. But when you resign yourself to this type of thinking that what you're experiencing is because of good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate, or because of God or some entity called the universe, or if it's because of other people that you're experiencing what it is that you're experiencing, then you're locked in and you can't change anything about your life, because you can't change good luck or bad luck, and you can't change destiny or fate, and you can't change God or some entity called the universe, and you can't change other people. But when you come to understand what's really causing the difficulties and struggles in your day-to-day life is these three pollutions that are in the mind, then when you understand the problem, you can implement the solution and you'll experience real results in your day-to-day life. So you're going to need to be able to see that there's this cause and effect or action and result. And whenever you're making decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome karma or wholesome results. And when you're making decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. And when you lack wisdom of these natural laws, you're going to tend to make unwise decisions, and this is going to produce unwholesome results for yourself. But when you accept responsibility for that and you can see the truth that it's coming from your own decisions, then you can actually transform it. Because otherwise, you're just locked in to being subjected to whatever is being experienced by you, which isn't actually the truth. That anything that you're experiencing, either wholesome or unwholesome, it's coming from decisions that you're making. And when you purify your mind of these three pollutions, and you can make decisions through the three wholesome roots, then you'll actually experience wholesome results. So these three poisons or three unwholesome roots provide a clear description of the problems in the unenlightened mind and why it keeps experiencing what it experiences over and over and over again. The most detailed level description of the Buddha's teachings that describes pollutions in the mind is referred to as the 10 fetters. When we talk about the pollutions from a high level, we talk about them as the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots or the three fires. But there's a deeper level of teaching. It's called the 10 fetters. And these are 10 individual pollutions that the Buddha discovered. And on your journey to enlightenment, you're learning about what those are and you're uprooting those from the mind. But when we talk about them from a high level, this is actually really helpful for you. The reason why they're referred to as the 10 fetters is because during the lifetime of the Buddha, if you were a prisoner and they were trying to keep you confined to a certain area, they would attach a fetter around your ankle. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball, and they would keep you out in a field and you would just stay confined in that area. Where today we keep prisoners in jail cells or prison cells or things like this. So when the Buddha discovered these pollutions, he talks about them as fetters because it's keeping the mind trapped or confined in this unenlightened state where it keeps experiencing anger, sadness, frustration, and other discontent feelings over and over. But when you eliminate these fetters out of the mind, just like a prisoner releasing the fetter from their ankle is now free and liberated, the same thing is true about your mind. That when you eliminate these pollutions or these fetters out of your mind is now free. That you can experience peace and calm and serenity and contentedness with joy as a permanent mental state, where it's physically impossible for an enlightened being to ever experience anger and sadness and frustration or any of these other discontent feelings ever again. So what you're doing is you're transforming your mind away from these defilements and these pollutions towards the antidotes or the remedies, which are referred to as the three wholesome roots, which is what I'm going to explain to you today as well. I'm not only going to explain to you the problem, I'm going to explain to you the solution. Now, in this course already, I've taught many different things. Yesterday, I taught something called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha that everything else plugs into. And I walk students through in a way that they could independently verify using the original words of the Buddha. You would need to know that teaching in order to be able to really make real progress on the path to enlightenment. Here, this is the third day of this course where we're expanding our understanding of what's truly going on in the unenlightened mind, where yesterday I taught something called the Four Noble Truths as part of the Eightfold Path, which gives you a little window into the unenlightened mind and helping you understand what's going on in the mind. But today we're broadening that and we're deepening it to be able to help students to understand more of what's going on in the unenlightened mind and what the problems are and what the solutions are. So these solutions that I'm going to share with you here for the three poisons or the three unwholesome roots, it's not the only solutions. These are solutions that actually integrate into this more central teaching called the Eightfold Path. So anything with these three poisons or these 10 fetters that need to be eliminated from the mind, you would need to first understand the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the teaching that I shared yesterday, and I share it many times during the various programs and various courses that I teach. And it's always recorded, so you could easily watch that on YouTube or Facebook or on our podcast. You can read it in our books, and all these things are available to you at no cost to be able to understand what the Eightfold Path is. But today we're going to drill down into some detail, kind of like a mid-level detail of what's going on in the unenlightened mind. And as I mentioned, you guys are welcome to ask ask questions as we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first talk about these 3 poisons, or these 3 unwholesome roots, or these 3 fires from a little bit of a high level. Then we're going to drill into each one of them in detail and then help you understand the solutions. So just from a high level, what we refer to as the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires is craving, anger, and ignorance. And you might hear these referred to in other ways. You might hear greed, hatred, and delusion. And there's other ways to refer to them as well. What craving is, or these desires, or this attachment, or wants and expectations, this is the mind longing and yearning, chasing after the objects of your affection, thinking that something external is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases and chases and chases. It's almost like the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases it and chases it and chases it. It's almost like the mind's like, my life is incomplete. I know what I need to make it better. Let me get a boyfriend or girlfriend. That'll make everything better. Let me chase one of those for a while. And then the mind chases and chases and chases and chases, and you get it, and you feel happy for a period of time, and you feel very excited, and you get pleasant feelings. But then over time, you get these painful feelings where you're angry and frustrated or annoyed. And then you're like, oh, I know what I need. I need more money. Let me chase that for a while. And now the mind chases it and chases it and chases it and chases it. And then you might get that, and you feel happy for a period of time, but then that fades away. And then the mind's like, oh, I know what I need, a new car. That's what'll fix everything. Let me get a new car. And now you chase that, right? It's just chasing, chasing, chasing. And if the mind's craving, desires, attachments, the longing, the yearning, the wants and expectations are getting fulfilled, then the mind gets pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But if the mind doesn't get what it wants, then it experiences painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. These are very painful for the mind to experience. And then there's something called neither painful nor pleasant feelings. This is like shyness or uncomfortableness or dissatisfaction. This is all being caused by craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning. The mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. So for example, if it's sunny outside and you really want it to be sunny because maybe you're going to go out for some outdoor activity, when you see that it's sunny outside, you'll be really happy. You'll be excited. But then when you form that feeling of happiness based on the sun, because the sun is not permanent, when it starts raining, you'll be angry or sad or frustrated. This is the mind itself causing that because it's craving the sun. It's longing, yearning, and wanting it to be sunny. And now you get so happy when it's sunny. But the sun is not permanent. So when the sun goes away, your happiness goes away. The same thing is happening, like say you have a bank account that your balance is up here, and you get really excited and really happy when your bank account balance is up here. Well, then when it goes down here, you feel sad or frustrated or agitated. This is because your mind is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently, when in reality you live in an impermanent world. So as long as you're basing your inner feelings on something external, that thing that you're basing your feelings on is not permanent. So that means your happiness is not permanent. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness. So if you can think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend that you got together with, when you guys first got together, you were so happy or so excited because maybe you were getting the attention that you were looking for, the affection. Maybe this person was calling you, inviting you out to the movies or dinner, or maybe you were having great conversations, going to the park. Maybe you were having intimate contact like sex and things like this. And you were so happy and having such pleasurable feelings during this period of time. But then over time, your expectations grew. You wanted more and more things from them. They wanted more and more things from you, and you couldn't meet their expectations all the time, and they couldn't meet your expectations all the time, and you guys broke up. And now you might have been angry or sad or frustrated. And now you might have even felt lonely or bored, or you started missing this person. It wasn't your love or your care, your concern that was causing that. What was causing it was your mind was holding on and craving permanence, wanting this relationship to be permanent, when in reality, everything around you is impermanent. And when the mind was getting what it wanted, it was happy about that. But when the mind wasn't getting what it wanted, it got those painful feelings. So as long as your mind has craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, and chasing after the objects of your affection, you can only be happy when you get what you want. And now the more expectations that you have in your mind, the less and less amount of happiness that you can have. So if it's like, if my mom and dad do this, if my boss does this, if the weather is this, if my bank account is this, boom, 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 then I will be happy, right? But if those things aren't true, then I'm not happy. This is what the unenlightened mind is experiencing. Because of its craving, desire, attachment, it's experiencing these discontent feelings. And one of those discontent feelings that is arising is the anger. And now when this anger is arising, the mind will falsely attribute it to something external. The mind doesn't understand that it's your own mind that's causing this anger, but the mind firmly believes that it's something external. So you might push people away out of your life. This is called aversion. You might have pushed friends or family members out of your life thinking that that was going to solve your problem. But you can see that that didn't solve your problem, because when you push people out of your life, you still get angry. You still get annoyed. You still get frustrated. If that person was the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful for the rest of your life. But when you push them out of your life, you still get annoyed. You still get frustrated. You still get agitated because you haven't actually solved the real problem, which is your craving, desire, attachment within your own mind. The other thing you'll do if you're not pushing people away or pushing the situation away is you'll be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. It's like trying to get your cravings fulfilled, trying to fear this other person into doing things your way. And then the third thing you might do is you might put your expectations on people and try to control them and pressure them and force them to do things your way. Because again, the mind's trying to get its cravings fulfilled because it doesn't understand that the real problem is internal within your own mind. The mind firmly believes that it's this person that is causing you to be angry. I'm sure that you've been in arguments before with people where you've been adamantly trying to convince them that they have to stop doing what they are doing, or else you're going to continue to get angry, where in reality it was your own mind that was causing this anger. And not only do you sometimes tend to push people away or be bitter, harsh, and hostile and put expectations on people, but people might be doing that to you too. That you might be experiencing your parents or your siblings or your coworkers or your friends or your neighbors doing these kinds of things as well, where they're pushing you away, or they're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're putting their expectations on you. And this is the individual's mind having this third poison, which is called ignorance or delusion, or this unknowing of true reality, this lack of wisdom. As long as the mind lacks wisdom of what truly is the problem, the mind will firmly believe the problem is external, and it will try to change other people around you in order to be able to get what you want, which is your cravings fulfilled. And this is just coming from a lack of wisdom. Because the mind lacks wisdom of what's truly going on, it will continue to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and put expectations on people. And in this situation, you can't live harmoniously with all people, because it's only a matter of time before somebody does something that doesn't meet your expectations. Because if your cravings aren't getting fulfilled, you're going to get angry. And now there's going to be that pushing away, the bitterness, harshness, and hostility, or the expectations. And where all that's coming from is this ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality, or this lack of wisdom. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. If it wasn't for this lack of wisdom, craving and anger would be eliminated from the mind. So that's why with the teachings of the Buddha, you're not interested in believing in any of his teachings, because belief doesn't help you to cultivate wisdom. You're going to need to cultivate wisdom to antidote this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality, where the mind can actually see what the real problem is craving and anger. And until you cultivate that wisdom and you can see the truth for yourself of what the mind's really experiencing, you'll continue to go around the world and blame other people for the feelings and emotions that you're having. And because of this, you'll just stay stuck in this continuous cycle of experiencing anger and sadness and frustration over and over and over again. So there is a solution for all of this. You can uproot these out of the mind. And the Buddha figured out how to do that with the Eightfold Path, among other teachings that connect into it. But this is just kind of getting into the heart of it to be able to help you see what the actual real cause of these discontent feelings are and providing you some solutions to fix it. So we're going to go into each one of these now in detail. And I'm going to pause and open up for questions at the end of each one to see what questions you guys have. So this craving, this desire, this attachment, this longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection, the mind gets really happy. It gets pleasant feelings when it's getting what it wants or expects. But the mind gets angry and sad. It gets painful feelings when it's not getting what it wants. I gave you one example, like a boyfriend or girlfriend. When you first get together, you're so happy. You're getting all these pleasant feelings because you don't have any expectations of this person at the beginning of the relationship. And they don't have any expectations of you. It's just, hey, I'd like to get to know this person. And that's it. And that's why you have such a great time at the beginning of your relationship. The first few weeks, maybe the first few months, everything goes wonderful because there's no expectations formed yet in the mind. You're just interested in getting to know this person. So they're meeting all your expectations because you don't have any expectations. And that's why it goes so well and you have so much pleasure at the beginning of the relationship. But when you get all these expectations in your mind and they get all those expectations in their mind, this is where the problems start. And this usually happens around the time when you have sex for the first time. That when you have sex for the first time, now all these expectations come in. There's other situations you can see this too. It's not just in relationships, but let's give you a few more examples in relationships. If you've ever had like a grandmother or grandfather that has died, or a mom or dad or brothers or sisters, if you grieve during that time frame or you were sorrowful or sad, it's not because of your love or your care for that person. It was because your mind had craving, desire, attachment. You were craving permanence, wanting them to be in this world permanently. As long as your mind was getting what it wanted, which was them being alive, you were happy. But then when they died, your mind experienced this impermanence, this understanding that, hey, they are not permanent in your life. And your mind didn't understand that. And your mind was holding on, wanting them to be permanent. And now when they died, your mind wasn't getting what it wanted, which was them to be alive. And when your mind wasn't getting what it wanted, that's when the painful feelings came in. You can see this in a wedding. If you've been to a wedding, people around you might be grieving, or you might be grieving when your brother or your sister is getting married, or someone close to you is getting married. They're going off into the world with someone else, and your mind's holding on to this person, wanting them to be permanent in your life, when you realize at this wedding ceremony that they are not permanent in your life. They're going out with this other person off into the world. Or if you could think back to when you went to university or college, or maybe you got dropped off at school for the very first time, or maybe if you're a parent, you might remember when you dropped your child off at school the first time. You might have been grieving, or your child might have been grieving and sad. It wasn't the love that was causing that, because this is a wonderful thing. They're going off into the world getting education, because love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. Active goodwill towards all beings. What was causing that grief and sorrow was the mind was holding on. The child was thinking mommy and daddy are permanent. And now when they're growing off into the world without mommy or daddy, they're going to cry and be upset. Or the parents might cry or be upset. You can see this with like a car. If you brought a brand new car and now when you park it at a store and you go inside and you come out, if there was a scratch on your car, you might be upset or angry when you see that scratch. It's not the scratch that's causing that, nor the person who scratched your car. What's causing the anger and the sadness and the frustration or whatever discontent feelings that are coming into the mind is that the mind is craving permanence. It's wanting this car to be permanently beautiful, when in reality, this car is not going to be permanently beautiful. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise here, because when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. That's the way we walk through a parking lot. But the fact is this car is going to get scratched. It's only a matter of time, because we live in an impermanent world. The paint is going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. This is all impermanence. But if your mind craves permanence, when you're experiencing all this change, you'll be frustrated, agitated, and annoyed. So one of the ways to describe the unenlightened mind is that it craves permanence. But another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It does not like change. In the unenlightened state, the mind does not like change. Think about times in your life where things were changing, even when you were making the decisions for those changes to occur. Like maybe you moved locations from one house to another, or maybe you changed jobs, or maybe your friendships and your relationships were changing. These were some of the most difficult and challenging times in your life because your mind didn't like that change, even though you were the one that was making the decisions for that change to occur, because the mind craves permanence. So what the mind doesn't know how to do in the unenlightened state is it doesn't know how to let go, because it's holding on. If you can think back to that boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys broke up, there was that sadness, that loneliness, that boredom, that missing feeling where you were missing this person. As long as you were holding on to them and you were wanting them to be in your life and you were craving permanence. But at some point, you decided, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peace came back. And that's where your joy came back. Or you were like, you know what? If she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And when your mind let go, that's when your peace and your joy came back. So the mind needs to learn how to let go, because it doesn't know how to do that. It's going to hold on, craving permanence. And that's where these solutions come in. That the Buddha teaches you breathing mindfulness meditation, the meditation that we just did this morning, where you're focused on the breath. And when the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off, let it go, and you bring the mind back to the breath. That's actually training your mind to let go. That's what that's doing. That's not training you to eliminate your thoughts, because you'll never eliminate your thoughts as long as you're alive. You're going to have thoughts. You need those thoughts. But what you need to know how to do is you need to know how to let them go, that you don't grab onto them. Because when you go out into the world and you see something, or you hear something, or you smell something, or you taste something, or something comes in contact with your body, or some thought or idea goes through your mind and you can't let it go, that's where your anger and your frustration and your agitation is coming up in your mind, because you can't let it go. So if during the meditation, 10, 20, 30 different times, you had to let go, and keep bringing your mind back to the breath, this is actually very good for you, because it's training your mind to let go. It's like exercising the mind at the gym. Like if you took this body to the gym and you exercised it, it would be stronger and more capable of moving your friend's couch when your friend asks you to move a couch. It's the same thing as that if you exercise your mind each day with meditation, it's going to train your mind to be stronger and have a stronger ability to let go. It's going to be more disciplined, so that when you notice your anger arising, you can let it go. But if you're not training your mind with breathing mindfulness meditation, you won't be able to let go. So therefore, the anger is going to keep coming up in your mind. The other thing that's helping you to train your mind to let go is generosity. The giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation, such as your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources. This is going to help train your mind to let go. And you need to be able to do this without any expectation of anything in return. If you're giving and sharing with others with an expectation of something back in return, you're not practicing pure generosity yet. You need to practice pure generosity where you don't expect anything in return, where you're just giving and sharing with others. This is going to train your mind to let go. So for example, if you were going into a store and you saw that there was someone behind you and you held the door for them and they walked in front of you, this is generosity. right? You're practicing giving and sharing. But if you were standing there with an expectation that everybody will say thank you, and they don't say thank you on the way through the door, you'll be frustrated. You'll be annoyed because you didn't get what you expected, which was a thank you, right? And not everybody is going to say thank you because that would be permanence. And you don't live in a permanent world where every single person is always going to say thank you. Maybe when you walk through the door, you say thank you when someone holds the door for you, but not everybody does that. Right? Some people are so caught up in their thoughts about what they would like to get out of this store that they don't even see you standing there holding the door, right? They're just going to walk right through the door, right? And that's just what that person's choosing to do. That's impermanence. So if you're going to hold the door for someone and practice generosity, it needs to be without any expectation of anything in return, not even a thank you. Right? Because you're going to sabotage your mind's ability to be peaceful and joyful as soon as you form that expectation of a thank you, where you're craving permanence. So if you're sharing your time, your effort, your energy, or your resources with others, you need to do it without any expectation of anything in return. And this is going to help train your mind to let go. And by giving and sharing, you'll be able to live open-handedly and not hold on to things very tight. Because the unenlightened mind with craving, desire, attachment, it'll become very selfish. You might find it challenging in some situations to share with other people, to share your food, to share your money, to share your clothes, to share your time. You might find it very hard to share with other people. You know, we're typically taught as a child to share with other people, to share our toys and things like this, but we're not actually taught why. And we kind of forget this as we age, that as we age and we start working and we start applying effort to make money and acquire things that we need in life, we tend to form a lot of selfishness in our mind where we're not willing to share with other people. But if you give and you share with others without any expectation of anything in return, this is going to help your mind to be able to let go, just like the meditation of breathing mindfulness meditation. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions on anything that I'm sharing. Remember here, if you guys could use the microphones, and online, if you could put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or raise your hand in Zoom, then I'll be able to answer your questions. So does anybody have questions here? Anybody online have questions? No questions? Okay, let me see if we have anything online. Hello to everyone online. Nice to see you guys. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. So as I was just sharing, yes, sir, you have a question? If you could get a microphone here in the white bowl, just press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and then just talk through the microphone, and they'll be able to hear you online. We'll be able to hear you here as well. There's a gray button that you press on the side.
Hello.
There you go.
Thank you, Master. Well, I have a question that when I am in the meditation, during the meditation, I saw some images out of my mind, and I can't control it. But it's made me happy. These images make me happy, but my mind is very confusing, very complex. I can't control it, but it make me not feel bad. So I can follow these images, just with it, or just ignore it and let it go.
Yes, it's the latter. What you would like to do is when you see those things is cut it off and let it go and just bring the mind back to the breath.
You don't mind it?
Because if you keep indulging in looking at those things, your mind hasn't actually let go. And you're also forming conditioned feelings based on those things, because you said you get pleasure when you see those things, but those things aren't permanent. They're not going to be there permanently.
It's not true?
So let me finish. They're not going to be there permanently. So as you train your mind each time, sometimes you're going to see those images, sometimes you're not. And if you get happy when you see them, that means when you don't see them, you'll be frustrated or agitated or sad or some other discontent feeling. So whenever your mind moves off your breath, even if it's seeing images or colors or what have you, you would like to bring your mind back to the breath and just train it to be peaceful and content and joyful. Just focus on the breath and only the breath. And this will train your mind to let go and to not form conditioned pleasant feelings based on something like seeing these images or objects.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, so as I was sharing, this craving, desire, attachment, this longing, the yearning, if the mind gets what it wants, it gets these pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, thrill, exhilaration, and others. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. And when this anger is arising, that's where the mind can become unskillful. There's this resentment, this hostility, this aggression that comes into the mind. And now the mind's either going to push people away or push the situation away, because the mind perceives that the anger is coming from something external. So this is where you might have pushed family members away or friends away, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. Or you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intention, speech, and actions. Or you might have put your expectations on people and tried to control people and pressure them to do things your way. And if you've done these kinds of things, you don't need to feel guilty or shameful about it. This is what every unenlightened mind is doing, because it just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. It lacks wisdom of what truly is the problem. The craving, desire, attachment is what's producing that anger and frustration. So when that anger is coming up, it feels uncomfortable. It feels very painful for the mind. And that's why the mind's trying to solve it, but it doesn't have the wisdom to understand what the true cause is. So that's why it's just doing whatever it thinks is best, which is push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, or put expectations on people. But you can see that this doesn't work. And that's why you still get angry. You still get annoyed. You still get frustrated. And this is why you've had broken relationships in some situations, that people have chosen to go away from you and end the relationship. So if you're tired of broken relationships over and over, and you're interested in getting to harmonious relationships, you're going to need to train your own mind, because pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or putting expectations on them isn't going to produce harmonious relationships in your day-to-day life. So once you understand that the problem is your craving, desire, attachment, and you can work through the Eightfold Path to be able to address that, targeting it with breathing, mindfulness, meditation, and generosity, then you're also going to need to target this anger, the hatred, the ill will, the frustration, the agitation, the annoyance. Because the way that the mind thinks is that oftentimes it can only be friendly or loving and kind with people who do things your way. This is the craving, desire, attachment. This is the expectations that if this person does things my way, I like them. But if they don't do things my way, I dislike them. Sometimes people think that the dislike is actually coming from the other person. But actually, when you're disliking people, it's actually coming from your own mind, because you have certain expectations of what you want people to be. And when they meet your expectations, you like them. But when they don't meet your expectations, you dislike them. And that's coming from your own mind. So by the time you train your mind in these teachings, you can love everybody. You can have love and kindness for everybody, because you understand everybody's different and not everyone's going to agree with you. But if you can only love people who do things your way, you're only ever going to be able to love one person in the world, because there's only one person who actually does things your way all the time. Do you know who that person is? He just said it, right? You guys know who only does things your way all the time? There's only one person in the world who does things your way all the time, and it's you. Right? So if you can only love people who do things your way, you're only ever going to be able to love yourself. And you might even find that challenging from time to time. You might find it challenging to love yourself, right? So you're going to need to get used to getting rid of these cravings, desires, attachments, understanding that everybody's different, everybody's unique, and not putting your expectations on other people where you're trying to control them or force them to do things your way. Understanding that you can disagree with people's choices and decisions while still loving the person. Loving the person means you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. You have active goodwill towards them. And if they make decisions differently than you, that's okay. You love them unconditionally. But if you have certain conditions or certain expectations of them, and you can only love them if they meet your expectations, then you can't love everybody. So right now, what you might be doing is you might be falling in love with people, and you might be falling out of love with people. If that's the case, that's not actually love. And if people are doing that with you, that's not actually love. Because what people might be saying is, hey, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy, right? That's not actual love. Because what we do is we meet somebody, We get really fond of them. We're really attracted to them, maybe financially, maybe their appearance, they're handsome or beautiful, maybe financially they're really successful, or maybe in society they have a high position in society, and we're really attracted to this person. And then over time, we grow closer and closer to this person, but then you start getting angry and frustrated, agitated with them. You might have said at the beginning of the relationship, I love you. I've fallen in love with you. But then maybe at the end of the relationship, you might say, I've fallen out of love with you. I don't love you anymore. Maybe people have said this to you. What really happened there is at the beginning of the relationship, this person was meeting your expectations. And you said, I love you, because they're doing things your way. But over time, as the relationship aged, they weren't doing things your way anymore. They weren't meeting your expectations because your expectations grew. And at that point, since they weren't meeting your expectations anymore, you said, I don't love you anymore. This isn't love. This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. This is, if you do things my way, I will say I love you and I will function as if I love you. But when you stop doing things my way, hey, I don't love you anymore. I can't do things where I show you my love because you're not doing it my way. This is selfishness. This isn't actual love. This is craving, desire, attachment masquerading as love. So if you're falling in love and out of love with people, that's not actually love. There's no such thing as conditional love, but let's just call it conditional love. It's basically like, if you meet these conditions, I will say I love you. But if you stop meeting these conditions, I don't love you anymore. That's not actual love. What true love is I love you unconditionally. You didn't do anything to earn my love, so therefore there isn't anything you can do for me to stop loving you. I just love you as you are, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. And sure, I acknowledge that you do things differently and you make decisions differently than me, but that's okay. I can love you as a person while disagreeing with the choices and decisions that you make. So I don't suggest you do this, but even if you went out into the world and you murdered someone today, and you called me from jail and you said, hey, David, I've had a terrible situation occur. I need you to come see me and I'd like to talk to you. Sure, I'll come talk to you. I'll come help you, right? I disagree with the choice and decision of murdering someone, but I still love you as a person, meaning I have a genuine interest in seeing you be well. This is unconditional love. You didn't do anything to earn my love, so there's nothing you can do for me to stop loving you. I love you as you are. Because over here, it's I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy. It's all about me. Over here with unconditional love, it's I love you, therefore I would like to see you be well. You're responsible for your own wellness, but I would like to see you be well. And I'm willing to contribute to that from time to time, but it's you that needs to find that wellness. So I love you as you are. So this way you can love everybody because you don't have expectations of them and you don't want them to be any particular way. And the way that you get to this, which is going to eradicate your anger, hatred, and ill will, is through loving kindness meditation. When you practice loving kindness meditation, this is going to rewire your mind to be loving and kind with all beings around you. This is a meditation that you do each day in order to essentially fill up your mind with loving kindness. But then you're going to need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions on a daily basis. And this is what the Buddha teaches you in the Eightfold Path. If you've learned the Eightfold Path with me, you've learned right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, and all the other factors of the Eightfold Path. That's the Buddha guiding you of how to practice loving kindness, among other qualities, that now, if you've been doing this meditation, you're essentially rewiring your mind to be loving and kind with the people around you. Because what we tend to think in the unenlightened state is the problems and difficulties that you experience are coming from other people. You might have bitterness and hostility and resentment in your mind because you might think that other people are causing you anger and frustration. I know I did. I grew up with a lot of resentment in my mind towards my mom. There was all kinds of expectations that I had for my mom, and she didn't meet those expectations, and I would be angry and frustrated. And I was angry all the way through my 20s and my 30s. I had a lot of anger towards her. Whenever mom and I were around, it was only a matter of time before fireworks went off. You might have people like this in your life where you guys come together and it's just fireworks. So when mom would be angry and bitter and hostile, she'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and she'd throw it around the room. I'd pick up the rubber ball of anger and I'd throw it around the room, and she'd pick it up and throw it around the room, and I'd pick it up and throw it around the room. And next thing you know, we have all these rubber balls of anger bouncing around in the room. Well, when you train your mind with loving kindness meditation to be loving and kind, you're not going to do that anymore. When mom started picking up the rubber ball of anger and she started throwing it around the room, I just watched it roll to the corner and lose its energy. Where in the past, I used to pick it up and throw it around the room. But when you understand loving kindness and your mind has been transformed to practice loving kindness and get rid of this anger and hatred and resentment, you can be loving and kind with all the people around you. So like I mentioned, in the past, with all this resentment and hostility in my mind, I wanted mom to change. I thought that I was going to get to happiness through changing mom. And I kept trying to change mom over and over and over and over and over again. And it just didn't work. So once I got wise to these teachings, I started training my own mind. And now I started doing things differently. So instead of being angry and bitter and harsh and hostile with mom when she was bitter and hostile, I started being loving and kind. So when we would be talking on the phone, in the past when mom was bitter and harsh and hostile, I'd be bitter and harsh and hostile right back. But now with a trained mind, if you use these techniques, when mom was being bitter and harsh and hostile, I could do something different. Instead of being bitter and harsh and hostile back, I would say things like, Mom, I love you so much. I know that I've been bitter and hostile in the past, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to get off the phone and let you think about what it is that you just said, and we'll talk another time. I love you, Mom. Bye-bye. And I would hang up the phone. Where in the past, I'd be bitter and harsh and hostile and screaming and yelling at her, and it would just keep this anger and hostility in our relationship continuing over and over and over again. And sometimes I wouldn't talk to her for 3 months or 6 months, and then we would start talking again. And then maybe things would be fine for 2 or 3 or 4 months, but then at some point she would be bitter, harsh, and hostile again. And I would say, Mom, I love you so much. I'm going to get off the phone. It's been nice talking to you. I know I've been bitter with you in the past, but I'm not going to do that anymore. I love you so much, Mom. Have a great day. Bye-bye. And I would get off the phone, right? And slowly but surely, what she realized was, if I'm interested in talking to my son, I'm going to have to be kind. I'm going to have to be gentle. I'm going to need to be getting rid of this anger and hostility. So I wasn't trying to change Mom, but that's what occurred. Based on me being loving and kind and putting out love and kindness, she chose to change herself. But in order for that change to occur, I had to change my own mind first. Right? Oftentimes we go around the world thinking we need to change other people. So Mom and I, our relationship was like a log jam. We had all this anger and hostility and resentment in this log jam, and I needed to start pulling out some of those logs. And when I did, everything could start flowing in our relationship. And one of the things that I used in order to eliminate these logs of anger and hatred is loving kindness meditation. That's what's going to rewire your mind. It's a different type of meditation than what we did this morning. And then you're going to need to go out in the world and be loving and kind with the people around you. And more, as you're putting out love and kindness, this is what's going to come back to you. So let me see if you guys have any questions on this anger, this hatred, this ill will, or all these lesser versions. If you'd like to use the mics, or those of you guys online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom. Any questions? No questions? Okay. So now let's go to the last one, because this last one is the whole reason why the other two even exist. If it wasn't for this last one, craving and anger wouldn't actually exist. But it's because of the ignorance or the lack of wisdom, the unknowing of true reality, that this craving and anger continues in the mind. Now, while a lot of people translate the words of the Buddha and they refer to this as ignorance, I tend to use the unknowing of true reality, because the word ignorant is like a derogatory word. It's a degrading word. I would never refer to anyone as ignorant or stupid or foolish. And the Buddha wouldn't have done that either. He wouldn't have referred to someone as ignorant or stupid or foolish, right? But sometimes people translate it that way because that's the way their mind thinks. It's not the way that a Buddha's mind thinks or the way that an enlightened being thinks. But I still use this word ignorance because some other teachers use it, and you'll see it in the world quite a bit, so then you'll know what they're actually talking about. But if you think about this as the unknowing of true reality, confusion, misunderstanding, the lack of wisdom, that's what's going to bring your mind to fully understand what the Buddha is talking about here. That the mind in the unenlightened state just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. And because the mind doesn't understand that it's craving that is causing your anger, the mind continues to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and put expectations on people. And you just stay stuck in this continuous cycle over and over and over again, thinking that everyone else is the problem, when in reality it's your own mind. So every single time you've ever been angry, every time you've ever been frustrated, you can look back over the course of your life. It's been your mind with craving, desire, attachment. It might have been this morning. It might have been yesterday. It might have been last week. You can look at this and independently verify it for yourself. There was something your mind was longing, yearning for. If you were really craving and desiring and really wanting to go to Thailand, for example, and you showed up to the airport and your flight was delayed or it was canceled, you were probably angry or frustrated or agitated or annoyed, right? There was something your mind wanted. You were longing, yearning for it. If you left your house and you wanted your house to look a certain way and you came back and your children or your partner had the house looking a different way, maybe they had some stuff in your house, you were angry and frustrated when you came back and you saw that, right? If you had some food in your house and you went to work and you were coming home intending to eat that food, and when you got home, somebody else ate it, you were probably frustrated or agitated or annoyed when you came home because you really wanted that food. The mind's craving, desire, attachment is what's causing this anger. But with the ignorance in the mind, the longing, the yearning isn't going to be seen. That anger isn't going to be seen because there's this lack of wisdom in the mind. The mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. So the antidote to this is wisdom. You need to be able to cultivate wisdom about what's truly going on within your own mind. And that's why you don't believe any of the teachings of the Buddha. Again, you don't need to feel guilty or shameful that your mind's doing this. Every single individual who's ever been born, their mind is doing this exact same thing, right? And it's only when you come to understand the wisdom of these teachings that you can now transform it. So when you learn the three universal truths, the four noble truths, the eightfold path, when you learn about the 5 precepts, meditation training, the natural law of karma, the 10 fetters, all these different teachings, that's what's going to slowly help you to transform your mind and transform your life, where you can be loving and kind and have harmonious relationships with everyone around you. So these teachings are designed to be able to help you cultivate wisdom through independently verifying the truth about the teachings. So do you guys have any questions on this one? Because as I shared, we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, but it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. No questions? Okay, so I'm just going to kind of summarize what we've been talking about here. Is that we were talking about the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. That's craving, anger, and ignorance, or that unknowing of true reality, greed, hatred, delusion. Some people call it desire, ill will, and confusion. These are ways that people refer to these. These are the pollutions or the defilements or the taints that is producing all these discontent feelings in the mind. There's antidotes or wholesome roots that are going to transform these, and these are the exact opposites of the defilements. So craving is that selfishness where the mind is longing, yearning. The opposite of that is generosity, where you're sharing with other people. The anger, the hatred, the bitterness, the hostility, the opposite of that is loving kindness, being to the point where you have active goodwill or genuine interest towards all beings being well. And then the opposite of this ignorance or the unknowing of true reality is to cultivate wisdom, where you truly understand what the real world is how it's actually functioning. So when you cultivate wisdom and these natural laws, that's where you can see true reality, and you actually know how to navigate the world peacefully and joyfully. So it's eradicating the three unwholesome roots and then cultivating the wholesome roots that the mind can then experience enlightenment. And that's what the mind is actually doing gradually, slowly but surely, on the path to enlightenment. Is you're gradually bringing down the unwholesome roots and you're gradually increasing the wholesome roots through your day-to-day practice. You wouldn't actually be able to meditate your way to enlightenment. You're going to need meditation to get to enlightenment. And that's why it's so important. But sometimes people think the Buddha sat under a tree, he meditated and instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. You need to meditate and build the qualities of mind that are wholesome and eliminate unwholesome qualities through the training. But then you need to go out into the world and practice the teachings through your day-to-day interactions. And that's where the entire Eightfold Path comes into play. And that's what's going to fully eradicate the pollutions, is training your mind through the Eightfold Path and implementing these specific solutions to target these particular defilements or pollutions. So this is everything that I have to share with you guys on this topic. It's now basically about 10:40, and what I'm going to do is take a 20-minute break to be able to give people an opportunity to stretch your legs, use the bathroom, get a snack, have some conversations or whatever you'd like to do. And when we come back at 11 o'clock, I'm going to share the 5 precepts, helping you guys to understand these 5 impactful decisions that if you make them wisely, it'll produce wholesome results. And if you make them unwisely, it'll produce unwholesome results. And as I mentioned, I know some of you guys might just be here for the morning, and that's fine. You guys are welcome to come and go as you please. But if you'd like to come back after break and continue to learn, you're more than welcome to do that as well. If I see you after break, wonderful. It'd be great to see you. But if I don't see you after break, have a very wonderful and lovely rest of your day, whatever you choose to do. Thank you for coming to be able to learn the teachings of the Buddha, and perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. So take care and be well. Sawadee krap.